Today we are focusing on ICUMS, Integrated Customs Management System. It's barely a year old that was introduced to the country's ports for port users to use that to clear their goods. Well, when it started, there were a few hitches, whereby there were a few agitations from freight forwarders. But today, we are being told that ICUMS is helping to improve revenue generation here in Ghana. We need answers. We need to find out, have all the loopholes been sealed? What is actually happening? I have with me the Deputy Commissioner in charge of the suspense regime and who also doubles as the Chairman of the ICUMS Implementation Committee, Emmanuel Ohene, to explain a few things to us for us to appreciate what ICUMS is doing. Hello and welcome.
Hi, and thank you for the opportunity.
Now, let's move straight into action. First of all, people or someone who hasn't had opportunity to clear goods at the ports might not have encountered the system before. Can you explain to us what the system really is?
Let me say that the Integrated Customs Management System is an end-to-end customs operational and management system introduced by the government of Ghana to ensure that we can have a seamless clearance of customs procedures and processes and enhanced trade facilitation. It was developed with the aim of having a single service provider to manage the operations of the trade facilitation and customs clearance processes.
So this system, we know that it was earlier being handled by two providers, but now we are having a single window system. Initially, when it started, there were a few agitation. What was the fears of people with this new system?
Well, we need to admit that we started on a very tumultuous note, and there were several reasons one could allude to why the set-off was a little rough. We initially didn't have an immediate buyer input by our various stakeholders for several reasons. One was such that we were told there wasn't enough consultation, there wasn't enough training, and as we will all admit, change is inevitable, but it is difficult to accept, especially when we are comfortable with the status quo. And yes, admittedly, we had challenges which we had to go back to the drawing board to, consider in the area of training for our various stakeholders, getting some of the major stakeholders to also consider areas of adjusting their modus operandi and all of that. And so this accounted for some of the rough edges we had, at the onset. We had to undertake to train not only the respective stakeholders, but customs, offices as well. And just as I said, change is normally very difficult to accept until we begin to see the fruits of, our efforts. Then the appreciation of the benefits of the system comes in.
We know, or we have heard, that it has improved revenue generation for Ghana. What were the changes? What has it done?
The first thing we need to bear in mind is that Ghana has had, when I mean Ghana, the Ghana Revenue Authority has had a history of automating, and it goes as far back as the early 90s when then there was a Customs, Excise and Preventive Service introduced the ASICUDA, what you know as the Automated Customs data. And then we moved on in the early 2000s into a partnership with the Ghana Community Network and started with the Ghana Customs Management System then went on in the mid-20s with the introduction of the pre-arrival assessment reporting system. You know, and these drives were aimed at improving on our service delivery and enhancing revenue generation and trade facilitation. And in 2017, the government introduced the paperless process. And these were all aimed at reducing the cost and time of doing business and ensuring that we can have systems that would plug in the loopholes that were anti-revenue generation. You know, that were anti-revenue generating, I beg your pardon. And since then, with the introduction of the ICUMS, not only have we succeeded in ensuring that we can ease the cost and time in doing business, the introduction of the ICUMS came about with a very robust inventory and cargo management system, which ensures that we can account for cargo right from the time it is discharged from vessels into the respective customs operational areas, and ensure that at the same time we can account for the revenues that would be generated on the cargoes that come into the country. To this effect, the ICUMS has introduced several modules that, you know, enhance clearance processes. We have one of the favorite, which is known as a pre-manifest declaration, which ensures that you can have your taxes assessed and duties paid prior to the arrival of the vessel. And when that happens, what it means is that the importer is able to plan their business and their financials effectively. And again, government is able to rake in the revenue in advance prior to the arrival even of the vessel. So government is able to plan also adequately with revenues that come in even prior to the clearance of, you know, consignments. As I said, because of the robust inventory and cargo management system, the ICUMS has come about with what you call a port community. And that port community ensures that there's transparency amongst all the key players in the port industry. And I refer to the terminal operators, the shipping lines, the Ghana Port and Harbours Authority, the MPS. So whatever any of these players are involved in, as a community, we're able to all have access to what we are doing. And that, you know, is a very big plus in ensuring there's transparency. Again, because of the fact that we now have introduced about 23 participating banks in the collection of revenue, that is a big plus. In addition to that, the government recently introduced the platform known as the Ghana.gov, which is responsible for the collection of all government revenue nationwide.
So that leads me to the next question, talking about compliance for the system and risk management for the system. What are the risk managements in the system that's able to detect tax evasion?
You know, we have, by our law, you know, customs is guided in everything we do by legislation. And the Act 923, which, you know, was passed in 2016, set up the National Risk Management Committee and the single window. And the Risk Management Committee comprises several, you know, state agencies, including customs, the Food and Drugs Authority, the Ghana Standards Authority, and the committee that is, you know, responsible for risk management, all have their input, okay, in determining what levels of risk goods imported into the country should be placed at. And so the customs acts as a frontline agency in the administration of the risk management tool. And to that effect, we're able to gather data from the other members of the committee, and the data, together with what customs already collects, in the clearance process is fed into the risk engine, and that determines the levels of risk that commodities are given. And so if you are bringing in medicaments into the country, obviously it poses a high risk, because for health and safety concerns, we need to know exactly what you're bringing in. If you're bringing in food and all these items, we need to know. If you are bringing in banned or prohibited items, we need to know. And so the risk engine determines the kind of levels of risk goods should be subjected to. We have, as we speak, 3 levels. You have the green, which means that you pose little or no risk. And so when your consignment is in the country and you go through the green channel, you do not have any examination conducted on your consignment. We also have the yellow, which is a non-intrusive form of examination. That is the use of a scanner to scan your consignment to determine whether there are infractions that will be detected in the course of the scanning. And then you have the red, which is mandatory. Now the risk level has mandatory examination red because they pose high risk and they are of health and security and safety concerns. Again, if we look at the level of infractions committed by a particular freight forwarder or importer, your profile is also fed into the risk engine. So if in a month or 2 you have several infractions against your company, what it means is that you as an importer or as an agent, you will pose some level of risk. And so automatically the engine will select you for examination, for mandatory inspection. And these are all measures that have been introduced to ensure that we can derive the maximum benefit from the system that is being deployed.
Issues of under-invoicing and over-invoicing, these are some of the concerns that were picked up on the ground. Are these concerns still rife in the system?
Let me say that, as I said earlier, we are guided by the law in the administration of customs procedures and practices. And Ghana acceded the General Agreement on Trade and Tariff, the GATT agreement, that concerns valuation. And we are guided by the dictates of that law when it comes to valuation of consignments that are imported into the country. And so when we have to conduct any activity regarding valuation, that is our principle that guides us. So if we are satisfied that you have complied with the requirements of that agreement by way of the documents you have presented, then you are allowed to, clear your cargo or consignment based on, the information you have provided by way of your invoice. If we are not satisfied, then we fall on the procedures that the law outlines for valuation.
Okay, so, but initial rollout of ICUMS started from the land borders.
Yes.
Right. So we want to know, as at now, has all the parts of the country now been hooked onto the system?
Okay, thank you for this question. In fact, the whole deployment of ICUMS was structured to roll out in phases. And so from the 1st of March 2020, some selected land frontiers were onboarded in the ICUMS. And I can talk about the major stations like Elubo, Flao, Paga, and Hamile. Then Akano as well in Flao collection. And then we moved on to Takrade from the 1st of April. And the airport was the next collection to go on the ICUMS. It was in the middle of April. And then in May, Customs, as you might be aware, is also responsible for collection of petroleum duties. So the petroleum duties came on the ICUMS in May of 2020. And then from the 1st of June, the other stations where ICUMS hitherto was unknown came on board, with Tema being our main port, in the country. So we had Tema, then we had Accra Collection come on board in June 2020, and thereafter we initiated the process of onboarding the other ICUMS, other stations in Ghana. As we speak, I can comfortably say that ICUMS has covered close to 93–94% of the country, and we have a few more stations that we hope to complete, activities taking place in ICUMS going forward, latest by the end of the third quarter.
Okay, so now let's talk about revenue mobilization for customs, especially with ICUMS. We know that it's been touted that it has improved revenue generation. What is the impact? How has it improved? How have we moved the ladder in terms of revenue generation?
Thank you. The ICUMS system, as I said earlier, has some inherent, features that have ensured that where we would otherwise, have lost revenue, it doesn't exist any longer. And I explained to you in the area of container movement, okay, and the area of participating, agencies and banks that are collecting the revenue. And then the area of the kind of modules we have for revenue collection. We have several modules which ensure that, you can make the payments and we can see in real time the monies that are coming in. We also have in the system a performance management system which acts more or less as a control, okay, in the activities of officers, even in the system. So we have quite a few, initiatives that are ensuring that we can properly account for the revenue.
Okay, so we are looking at 1 year on with ICUMS. What were the figures that you were picking up since the rollout?
Let me say that prior to the commencement of ICUMS in June from Tema, the average we were clocking in the previous existing systems was between 900, 800, 900 a month. And when we started picking up just around August, September, we were now looking at an average of 1.2 billion of revenue collection in the ICUMS.
So if these figures were being picked for the entire year, how was the performance like?
Last year, by the grace of God, we were able to exceed our target in revenue collection for the country. And this year, without banding figures, we are not too far behind. If we make even a comparison between January to June of 2020 and January to June of 2021, Customs Division, we have at least made a nominal growth of about 41% in revenue collection. When we are able to onboard every collection and every station, it assures us that the revenues, will come in, even if it is in trickles from the smaller stations. And with the control measures that are in ICUMS, even in the major stations like Tema, Takrade, and Accra Collection and Aflao, we should be able to make some impact. The issue we need to bear in mind is that we make a lot of the projections, but we don't import as a revenue agency. And so where there are instances where imports do not come in as anticipated, you cannot put the blame at the doorstep of the GRA.
But I think that last year, despite COVID, our ports were not closed, so imports were coming in. How did we fare?
We were able to exceed our target last year.
And then now let's look at the forex rates. Many a times, the instability of the forex actually affects duty payments, because before you get to the forex, the thing has already gone up. In terms of stabilizing the forex and then the levies that one importer has to pay, customs, is there a way they can solve this particular challenge?
Let me first say that we do not determine the forex rates in the country. It is the sole responsibility of the Bank of Ghana. And it's important for me to explain that the Ghana Revenue Authority implements government policies. We don't make the rules and the regulations and the laws. We implement them. And so we are guided by what we've been asked to do. Yes.
Now let's talk about AFTA is here, and there's a call for us to benefit from this AFTA partnership. For customs, how can we tap into AFTA for us to maximize the benefit that comes with it?
Thank you for this question. Let me point out that, we were tasked to commence operations of the AFTA from the 1st of January 2021, and within a very, very short time, the ICUMS had been poised to ensure that we can roll the necessary tools in the system to enable us effectively, be a part of the AFTA. And as we speak, the ICUMS, the ICUMS system now has been programmed to ensure that all aspects of customs activities in AFTA are taken care of. So right from the first week or second week in January, we were in a position of readiness to roll out, our part of the activities for the AFTA. And so every necessary customs procedure concerning rules of origin and the like have been adequately taken care of by the ICUMS to ensure that we can make the whole endeavor a success.
Okay, so now let's look at ICUMS in the next few years. Are they strategic plans that have been put in place that can enhance operations of ICUMS?
Certainly. We have we started the whole ICUMS rollout with phases in mind. And we had the first phase where we needed to onboard all the stakeholders. As we speak, we have close to 6,000 operators and close to 3,000 internal stakeholders such as customs officers in the system. So those were part of the first phases, onboarding the shipping lines, the terminal operators and the like. We have about 17 phases, 17 modules that we are in the process of development. And I can readily pick on a few, such as the advanced passenger information systems, which will be deployed primarily at the airports to not only profile cargo but passengers as well, in collaboration with the immigration services and other security agencies at the airports, to determine the kind of risk passengers or their consignments will pose, and again determine the kind of treatment they should be accorded. We have the postal services module as well, which actually has been developed for operations at our post offices. You have what you call the electronic wallet or e-wallet, which is also in the process of advanced development, where we are considering having importers who have overpaid duties or have some monies that are due them from government, through overpayment or refunds, credited to their wallets, so that if they have any new consignments in, those monies could be used to offset the payment of taxes that are due. We have not only that, we have what you call the e-auction, which is being designed to ensure that we can have a complete management system of auction, such that, you know, public auctions and the like are improved, and given the semblance of what we see in outside jurisdictions. We have the dispute and litigation module,
okay,
which will help with appeals and the like. We have also the performance management, you know, module to fine-tune. We have several of them. We have the warehousing module that is also, you know, being enhanced. And most of the modules were to have been deployed by the first quarter of the year, but for the COVID. And let's also bear in mind that our technical partners are overseas, and because of the COVID, it was difficult getting them to be here for, you know, us to work hand in hand. And so we've had some challenges with the deployments coming out as scheduled. That notwithstanding, we're looking at completion of most of these modules before the end of the third quarter.
Before wrapping up, we want to look at ICUMS in the sub-region. Is this a system that's being done only in Ghana, or is familiar with the other countries, port nations in the sub-region?
In West Africa, I'll say Ghana is the only country that, you know, is operating in the ICUMS. The ICUMS is actually a product of a partnership between the, Korea Customs Service sister company known as the Customs Unipass International Agency, KUPIA. Yeah. Okay. One of the things I forgot to mention, which I'll mention just because you asked about the sub-region, is that the area of transit, we have what you call the SIGMAT, which is a brainchild of the ECOWAS that has to do with ensuring that we can have a seamless transit of consignments, you know, moving from one country to the other in the sub-region. And as we speak, we have very advanced plans to complete the integration between ICUMS and ECOWAS in the area of, you know, movement of cargo within the sub-region, the transit, you know, regime. And what we foresee for ICUMS is to ensure that we can fulfill one of the pillars of the WCU, which is on partner to partner with countries in the sub-region who are yet to have such a dynamic system, you know, in the area of trade facilitation and customs clearance, and giving an opportunity to make the ICUMS work the way we see and the way we anticipate. We should be able to export ICUMS to other countries, probably in all of Africa.
It's been exciting speaking to you, Mr. Ohene. We are hoping to do this again. Thank you very much for having us in your office. My name is Josephine Nchiji.